Do you ever feel anxious? Like your mind is constantly racing and you just can't turn it off? I used to think the fix was do more, read more, work more, think more. I tried to outrun my anxiety, but I was only pouring gasoline on the fire. The Miracle of Mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh taught me the real solution is the opposite of everything we've been taught. It's not about sitting cross-legged at the chanting. It's something much simpler and honestly much harder. Thich Nhat Hanh was a Vietnamese Zen master who passed away in 2022 at 95. What began as a letter he wrote from France to social workers in Vietnam became this warm, practical guide. It's rooted in Buddhist wisdom, but never feels preachy or overly religious. If you are tired of noise in your head, this book may be exactly what you need. So let me walk you through these main ideas. Do you know how to wash dishes? In the first chapter, Thich Nhat Hanh asks a simple question. He says, there are two ways to wash dishes. The first way, you wash them as fast as possible so you can check your phone or do something else. The second way, you wash the dishes for the sake of washing the dishes. Washing dishes is an event in itself. When you do it this way, you are not rushing your hands are in the water, but your mind isn't somewhere else. You're just washing the dishes. I'm guessing most of us wash dishes the first way. This little metaphor helps us realize something important. The time you spend washing dishes is still your life. Add up all the dishwashing you'll do over a lifetime. It's a significant amount of time. But if you ignore that time because your mind is elsewhere, you'll lose it. If, instead, you really feel the water running over your hands, notice the soap bubbles, and watch yourself rinse each dish clean, then you are truly washing the dishes. That part of your life isn't wasted. You were fully present for it. As modern people, we tend to mash multiple experiences together. A lot of people scroll through their phone on the toilet, so they're neither pooping properly nor using their phone mindfully. You try to do two things at once, you end up doing neither well. That's what makes life feel blurry. You lost track of what you are actually doing. Things get tangled. By now, you probably have a rough idea of what mindfulness is. Mindfulness means being clearly aware of what you are doing right now. How we practice mindfulness in daily life. Thich Nhat Hanh says you can practice mindfulness just by walking. First, you have to realize something. The real miracle isn't walking on water. The miracle is that you can walk on solid ground at all. Being alive, being born into this world, thanks of trillion to one coincidence, is itself a miracle. Every single day, every single minute, you are living inside a miracle. So, why is walking on the earth a mindfulness practice? Imagine you are walking on a country path or even a city street. Look up. Blue sky, white clouds, green trees, wind, birds, animals. All of it's beautiful. Walk with awareness that you are moving through a miracle. Use your eyes to really see what's around you. As you take each step, be aware that you are taking it. Try to set aside your thoughts about what you have to do next. Most of the time, when we are doing one thing, our mind is already somewhere else. Just like with washing dishes. We walk while thinking about other things, not paying attention to the act of walking itself, so we don't really experience walking. It becomes an unconscious, mechanical motion. But with mindfulness, you walk with intention, you walk with clarity. That's the benefit of practicing mindfulness. It helps you become aware of everything you do. You know why you are doing it. Your focus sharpens, and you see things more clearly. Breathing is a great way to train this awareness. When you breathe in, know you are breathing in. When you breathe out, know that you are breathing out. When you take a deep breath, know that is deep. When you are breathing out slowly, know that is slow. Doesn't that make the fact that you are alive feel more vivid? Here's a simple way to think about it. As long as you bring mindfulness to whatever you're doing, you're already practicing it. You are already experiencing its moment of your life, feeling the miracle of being alive. Why sit and meditate? Can't just lay down. Can you meditate laying down? Isn't meditation just relaxing and letting your brain rest? Thich Nhat Hanh explains that sleep isn't really rest. Most of us toss and turn. Our muscles stay tense, and we dream all night. Our brains don't actually get that much rest. That's why sitting meditation can help you relax more deeply. When you sleep, you're trying to relax, but unconsciously. When you sit to meditate, you are relaxing on purpose, and that kind of relaxation can go deeper. It helps you actually deal with the worries and the mental clutter that sleep alone can fix. When you sit, it's best to keep your spine straight. Close your eyes gently and rest your hands naturally on your knees. Why sit cross-legged? It gives you a stable base and keep you from falling over. Why keep your back straight? To stay alert and awake. If you are slouched, your breath gets shallow and you may get drowsy. Sitting upright signals to your mind this matters. Meditation is essentially training your awareness. It's an exercise in attention. It's about training your mind and cultivate mindfulness. Close your eyes, sit down, and focus on your breath. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. I'm take a deep breath in, I'm exhaling slowly. If you hear a noise, just notice it. Oh, that's a car. Or I smell something cooking. If a frustrating memory suddenly pops into your head, don't judge it. Don't let it pull your emotion around. Just gently bring your attention back to your breath. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. Nhat Hanh also suggests a beautiful visualization to help you settle into meditation. Imagine you are a small pebble dropped into a river. You sink slowly, gently through the water until you rest peacefully on the soft riverbed. The water flows over you as the silt swirls around. This image can help you drop into stillness more quickly and stay clearly aware of your breath. Meditation isn't just about calming down. It's about observing your own mind in action. When you sit still and look closely, you start to notice something surprising. The self you normally take for granted isn't as solid as you think. This leads to one of most profound ideas in the book, the 5 aggregates. What I'm about to say may get a little more theoretical. To be honest, when I was reading The Miracle of Mindfulness, I even got a bit stuck here, because I knew very little about Buddhism. This chapter is called The One is All, the All is One, the 5 aggregates. It sounds very conceptual, but it's actually not that hard to understand. In Buddhism, a person, or really any phenomenon, is made up of 5 elements. They're called the 5 aggregates: form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. Form is a physical body, your nose, eyes, heart, everything physical. Feeling are sensations: cold, warmth, happiness, sadness. Perception are recognition: seeing a dog and knowing it's a dog, seeing a cat and knowing it's a cat. Mental formation are the sudden urge we feel, like the impulse to check your phone or the snap decision to get annoyed. Consciousness is awareness, knowing that you exist, that you are in the world, that you are aware. A person is made up of these 5 aggregates, but they are not fixed. They are constantly changing. The way you feel today is probably different from how you'll feel tomorrow. Maybe you're sad today, but tomorrow something happens and suddenly you're happy. This brings us back to a question I mentioned earlier. When you are meditating and focusing on your breath, and suddenly a thought pops up, like someone owes you $100 and won't pay it back, and you get angry. Why shouldn't you just that thought? Why should you just return to your breath? Because you are angry today, but tomorrow you may not be as angry. So don't get too attached to the emotion of the moment. Wait, if they are no fixed self, then who is currently watching this video? It sounds like a paradox, but here's why it's actually a huge relief. Back to 5 aggregates. If a person is made of these 5 aggregates, just take it as a theory for now. And if these aggregates are always changing, minute by minute, day by day, year by year, then this self isn't fixed. Our bodies change, our thoughts change, our worldviews change. That's why Buddhism introduces this concept of no self or non-self. Here's a simple way to understand it. When you were 20, you may have wanted to be a musician, but by the time you're 40, you want to be a millionaire. So the 20-year-old you and the 40-year-old you are, in theory, not the same person. They've changed. There's no single unified self. So the concept of me only exists in the present moment. That's why Buddhism encourages us not to cling to the idea of fixed self. Now, what does the one is all, the all is the one mean? We tend to see things in isolation: a table, a chair, a cup, but we don't see that all things contain one another. Once you realize that everything is interconnected and interdependent, your perspective on life expands. You stop getting so caught up in your own personal feelings. Take a table. A table exists Because of a tree, nail, and a carpenter. And why does the tree exist? Because of sunlight, water, soil, and the seed. All these elements came together to create the table. Without them, the table wouldn't exist. It's the same with a person. Without your parents, you wouldn't exist. Without air and sunlight, you wouldn't exist either. The relationship between people, between you and your coworkers, are made of countless shared elements. Nothing exists independently. When you start thinking this way, you stop trapping yourself in the presence of the self. And when you see the world with a broader perspective, your personal troubles start to feel smaller. At the end of this book, Thich Nhat Hanh shares a short story by Leo Tolstoy. Once upon a time, there was a king who had 3 questions. He thought, if I could find the answers to these 3 questions, I would be invincible. His 3 questions were, what is the best time to do each thing? Who is the most important person to work with? Who is most important thing to do at all times? He couldn't figure it out. So he went up to the mountain to find a famous hermit. He found the hermit digging in the ground. The king asked his 3 questions, but the hermit didn't answer. He just kept digging. Seeing the hermit was old and tired, the king started helping him. Toward evening, a wounded man ran out of wounds and collapsed. They cleaned his wounds and let him rest. The next morning, the man confessed, I came to kill you. Your soldier wounded me, but then you saved my life. It turned out the king had executed the man's brother. The man wanted revenge, but the king saved him instead. The king was deeply moved. Then the king turned to the hermit and asked, can you now answer my 3 questions? The hermit said, you've already had your answers. If you hadn't helped me dig yesterday, you would have been attacked. So the best time was when you helped me dig. The most important person was me. The most important thing was helping an old man. When the wounded man came, the most important time was when you cared for him. The most important person was him. If you hadn't saved him, his family would have come seeking revenge, but you saved him, and you resolved the blood feud. So the most important person was him, and the most important thing was the care you gave him. In a way, the wisdom in Tolstoy's story aligns perfectly with the heart of mindfulness. The best time to do anything is now. The most important person to work with is the person right in front of you. The most important thing to do at all times is to make the person next to you happy. That's my personal introduction to the miracle of mindfulness. The last chapter is filled with practical exercises, breathing, smiling, handling strong emotions, and more. I highly recommend reading the book yourself. This book genuinely helped ease my anxiety and brought more clarity into my life. Instead of trying to outrun my racing mind, I learned to sit with it. That shift made all the difference. Once you start applying these ideas, you can bring mindfulness into small daily moments, like truly tasting your coffee, feeling its warmth, and being fully present. Little by little, ordinary moments begin to feel peaceful and meaningful. I hope this helps you find more calm and presence in your own life. Let's all wake up from the unconscious rush of daily life. Thanks for watching.